Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special edition of SEMA's annual membership meeting. I'm Chris Kersting, SEMA President and CEO. You know, we've done a lot of these annual meetings over the years, and I gotta say, going virtual, not having folks sitting right in front of us, it's all a first for us. But it's an exciting opportunity to deliver timely information, answer questions you may have amidst everyone's efforts to cope with the COVID business environment. Now, before I get too far along, I want to introduce my partner for this session, SEMA's Chairman of the Board, Mr. Tim Martin.
Thank you, Chris. Every business in the SEMA world has been working through some very unpredictable and challenging times due to COVID-19. You have our assurance that the SEMA board and staff view this as a time when the association should step up to deliver information, services, and tools to help our members.
Now, usually for this meeting, we'd be gathered in person, generously hosted by a SEMA member for an evening of networking, a little industry discussion, usually break some bread, have a meal. However, this year is certainly different, and Tim and I are coming to you with a bit of social distancing here, live from the SEMA garage here in Southern California. Although this isn't our typical format, we're really pleased to have this chance to provide important updates on the industry, on the association's latest tools that'll help our members, and to address your questions. So I want to say, no matter what type of business you are representing here today, if you are a SEMA member, we're so glad to have you. We really appreciate your continued support of the association. On the other hand, if you're a company that isn't a SEMA member, that's okay. We've got great information there, and I want to tell you, for each of those programs and services, we have a person, contact information to reach a real live human being, and they will be glad to talk to you about your questions. So, Tim, this is a members meeting. Would you kindly get us started with just a few words about SEMA as a member-based organization?
Sure, glad to. I thought we'd start the meeting today recognizing that there are people in the audience who probably aren't familiar with SEMA beyond the trade show. SEMA was created over 50 years ago by companies like yours that wanted to work together to solve industry problems. SEMA is a nonprofit organization that's owned by you, our members, and our mission is to help our member businesses succeed and prosper. So how do we ensure that SEMA remains relevant and continue to help you all do better? Well, it starts with the SEMA Board of Directors. Each year, the association members elect representatives from our industry to serve on the board. This year, we welcome 2 new members, Kim Pendergast, CEO at Magnuson Superchargers, and Ted Wentz III, CEO at Quadratech. Why is this important? Well, your elected leadership is the voice of the members, and they provide strategic direction and oversight for the association. The board members meet with the executive staff several times a year to strategically consider how we can help the industry. The board charts the path, and the staff work to accomplish that vision. Chris and I will now share a few of the most important priorities that the board and staff have been working on. Let's start with SEMA's Vehicle Technology Initiative. It's easy to see that complex technologies are showing up on new vehicles at warp speed. The SEMA board and staff have been working for some time to provide you with information and tools needed to help successfully develop and integrate your products with these emerging OEM technologies. I'm pleased to announce that in stepping up these efforts, the SEMA board recently approved establishing a new SEMA Garage and Vehicle Technology Center in Detroit, Michigan. This facility will establish the product development services, expand what we have here in the Diamond Bar SEMA Garage facility, and the Detroit SEMA Garage facility will include a new emissions test lab, new equipment and resources to help members develop aftermarket products that are compatible with advanced driver assistance systems and other new vehicle technology. Staff are currently looking for a home for the SEMA Garage in Detroit, and we expect to begin phasing in services as soon as that facility is in our hands.
Right. A second major initiative is aimed at the racing segment. You know, SEMA has always had significant involvement in the racing community. In 2012, SEMA acquired the PRI show and its performance racing industry publications. Now, that was an important first step. And this year, we've invested additional resources to build, protect, and promote the racing community. So we're moving forward to expand services and support for racing businesses, for suppliers, for tracks, sanctioning bodies, racers, and enthusiasts. SEMA established a PRI president position and hired an experienced executive, Dr. Jamie Meyer. Many of you are probably familiar with Jamie. He'll be filling this role and leading the PRI division. This is going to include opening an additional PRI office in Indianapolis. The PRI team is already working to provide assistance to the racing industry during this COVID pandemic and to track owners and operators as they work to try and restart their businesses. I hope you'll look for more from the PRI team here in the coming months.
Yep, thanks, Chris. SEMA is continuing to invest in member services. SEMA helps member manufacturers develop high-quality digitized product information. The SEMA Data Co-Op has grown to include over 500 brands and millions of specialty automotive products and provides cloud software tools to distribute this data to industry resellers of all types. Recently, the SEMA board approved additional investments to upgrade these systems to expand our services and capabilities. The SEMA Data Co-op plays a significant role in enabling business automation and commerce for manufacturers, distributors, and retailers. SEMA also continues to spend millions of dollars every year on legislative and regulatory advocacy to protect our industry and our lifestyle. We work with federal and state governments and provide services to help our members with regulatory compliance. We also continue to work to protect grassroots motorsports and build coalitions to protect key automotive recreational areas and facilities. SEMA works all year to help member businesses grow. We provide many member benefits, including business development, research, education, employment resources, and programs to help people and businesses collaborate. Our member councils, networks, and committees continue to identify opportunities and look for ways that SEMA can help your businesses. They really help inform the board of directors and the staff on what we can do. I hope that all of you will tune into the many services and tools and benefits that SEMA has for members. There's much to value there. All right, with that, I'll send it back to Chris for an update on how the industry is doing under the impact of COVID-19.
Yeah, before we get there, Tim, I just want to echo that so many people know the SEMA show, the PRI show, and they value that as a great resource. There is so much here under the SEMA roof to help our members. And I think oftentimes we find when we go out and do the town halls live, there are so many SEMA members who really aren't aware. So when you get that member benefits brochure that we were talking about a little earlier, take a look at it. There's some really great stuff there. All right, so SEMA has done some survey work. We wanted to learn about how COVID-19 has affected the industry so that we could share that with you and you guys could kind of understand what's going on for other companies. As we've seen in the midst of past challenges, the results of this show us that the industry is proving to be pretty resilient. Prior to the pandemic, 2019 set a new record high for specialty equipment industry sales at around 46.2 billion at retail. Now, since then, the impact that COVID-19 will have on what's going to go down in 2020 is still a little bit difficult to gauge. Surprisingly, for many companies, 2020 has so far been a good year, despite the setbacks of COVID. It's likely due to the matter that automotive lifestyles, they're home-based, it's distancing compatible type activity. Strong sales may also be getting a push from some of the economic aid and stimulus programs that were out there. And many companies that are well equipped for online marketing and sales, they're riding the wave of consumers shopping from home. At the same time, and probably predictably, there are many other businesses in our industry that have been hit hard and are really struggling. A recent SEMA poll indicated about 88% of the companies said that at this point, it's kind of business as usual, or they're impacted in the short term, but they see that they're going to get through it. So for the most part, a pretty positive expectation. So far, consumer confidence has remained higher than during the Great Recession, which is to me a little bit surprising, but I guess it's because many are looking at the COVID setback as more of a temporary kind of situation. On the other hand, if the shutdown drags on, if financial assistance programs begin to wind down and confidence wanes, we'll likely see that translate into lower spending in the months ahead. So we'll all have to just kind of wait and see what happens there. Something we have learned from past experience is that we serve an enthusiast-based industry, and hardcore enthusiasts, they seem to find ways to keep on spending, pursuing their passions. And even when other consumers are scaling back on some of their purchases, folks are continuing to do the things that they love. So the current situation so far, it seems to be following suit. Enthusiasts are using this time to work on their cars and trucks, perhaps even get into a project that they've been putting off for a while. It's going to be, I think, a while before we see full recovery, but I expect our industry is going to continue to be resilient. I think we'll persevere and move back toward much more consistent levels of business activity in 2021. If you're looking for a tool to help get a sense of the state of the industry, I urge you to check out SEMA's annual market report. We just recently published the report that looks back at the prior year, and it contains details on recent sales activities in different segments, trends, all sorts of good information. We don't have time to cover all the things the market study does in detail today, but this and other really useful market research information can be found at the SEMA website, sema.org/research, but just go in there and look for resources and you'll find it. The regularly updated special section we put together on COVID information. It's a resource page that was developed specifically for our industry and to help you all. It can be found on the SEMA website under the banner at the top that says coronavirus updates. Now, that site has been providing members with detailed state and local information on the business shutdowns, what was an essential business. Tim, I remember you and I on some late night calls with some members, helping them understand whether they needed to shut down. And literally, we had businesses able to stay open because of this information that SEMA had. That's kind of in the rear view mirror. The site continues to provide timely information to help members with regard to PPP and the other federal aid. A lot of the people made application, but now they're interested in getting the details that are coming out on those programs. And SEMA is also providing information to help our member businesses now as they seek to reopen. We've got a section there at .org/reopen. There you can find regularly updated state and local rules, the policies for businesses reopening, and you can see what's going on, not only in your state, but we're trying to get down to local and regional information as well. Really helpful in terms of especially the way things are changing. Another thing, we've got SEMA member companies who are providing personal protective equipment, stuff that you may need as you try to reopen your business. Go check those folks out. They're offering some good stuff there at a good rate. We have downloadable COVID-related signage. Very basic thing, but if you're going to reopen your business, you need all the signage. SEMA has thought about that. We've put together some signage that you can order and get your business back up and running. We also have some tools that you might be able to use as you're working in that more virtual environment. We have industry panel discussions on various topics that you can tune into and hear what other automotive businesses are doing. The SEMA Back to Business webinar series is available. You can get some great ideas there on useful tools from experts. As well, we have just lots of other new information that's going up onto that COVID site on a regular basis. So if you haven't been in there recently, I urge you, go in and check it out. All kinds of good stuff. So let's go now to some of the questions that y'all have submitted. We're going to answer those and maybe get to some more that we've gathered while you all have been listening to the presentation today. So Tim, you want to lead off there?
Yeah, it's great to have this opportunity to address your questions directly. And we have some questions that were submitted in advance, and we're going to go through those. So let's get started. Yep, and I would just add that SEMA.org/research link will get you to over 25 free market research reports, very detailed reports that help you understand what's going on in different segments, what's going on with consumers, and it's one of the best, best resources that we provide to our members, one of the best benefits. It's free, so definitely check it out. The next question comes from Susan Donahoe from Truck Accessories Group. She's asking about the SEMA Data Co-op. We're reviewing ACEs and PIEs language versus OEM language in e-commerce business to consumer for fast searches. Can SEMA help with optimizing OEM language? The SEMA Data Co-op is constantly evolving how we can help members create expanded, more rich marketing content for all sellers. And so yeah, absolutely, the SEMA Data Co-op is one of your resources for evolving marketing content. And it's not as simple as one description or one way of finding product. As pointed out in the question, there's a lot of different ways that consumers search or different ways that they refer to products. And so the Data Co-op is constantly working to evolve that. There's many different forms of descriptions and search attributes and things that help consumers find products. So my advice is, if you have questions in that area, reach out directly to the SEMA Data Co-op contacts that'll be provided, and they'll work with you directly to help you solve your problem.
Tim, our experience over probably 8 or 10 years now, working to educate people about the importance of getting their products into a digitized mode so that they can be present where people are going to shop and where they're going to look and understand what they want to buy. Our industry has been pretty slow on the uptake as a general matter. And we've really been encouraging over that time for people to learn about, understand what they need to do and how to do it. And in our industry, it's a little bit challenging. And that's why we put the Data Co-op together, to be a resource that can really help guide companies through the process, give them that assistance, get them situated so that they're able to participate. And I don't think there's ever been a more clear signal of how important that is than what just happened in these last few months with the COVID situation. And the companies that have been prepared and are present online are really reaping the benefits of it. So I would encourage all the folks out there, if your company has not gotten to that place where your product is available in a digitized, high quality format online, come to the SEMA Data Co-op. We can help you with that. The Data Co-op naturally has the reach through SEMA members with a huge number of resellers. And those resellers are then able to take that data, pull it, and use it in the marketing efforts that they have out at their end. And it's going well, but I just regret that we don't have more companies, and I want to urge them to get involved. So check into us and join up with our SEMA Data Co-op. All right, so we have another question here. This one is, what is the most pressing legislation affecting the motorsports industry today? And this one came from, do I have who this one is from? Jerry Eleanor, yeah, from Universal Technical Institute. So thanks for the question, Jerry. It really gives us a chance to note some of the new efforts that we're making with PRI. So part of our concerted effort to help racing move forward is to put special focus on legislative and regulatory challenges that hit that part of the industry. And one of the things that we see is the regulation of tracks, and basically tracks, local tracks, being regulated out of business. We're already involved through our new initiative in reaching out to track owners and operators, trying to understand more about what the challenges are that they're running into, and lining them up with different resources to help in that effort when they're, so to speak, under attack. So that's one aspect of legislative regulatory that I think is important right now that we're working on. The other one is a little better known. It's the RPM Act and our effort to get federal legislation passed that solves a problem. The problem is that inexplicably, a few years ago, the federal EPA took the position that it's illegal to convert a street vehicle, and that is to say a vehicle that is emission certified, to use in racing. And of course, we took issue with that it contradicts maybe 40 or 50 years
100 years
of folks being able to do this with no questions asked, right? We've got federal legislation in that would reverse that, make it permanent. The understanding that we all have lived with forever, which is that if a vehicle is used for racing, that's not street use. There is no jurisdiction over non-street use activity in that regard, and the vehicle can be changed, modified. So we've been pushing this legislation for a while now, as many of you may know. This year, we're moving forward to that sort of crescendo at the end of the legislative year. Because of the election year, that will happen a little bit earlier this time. So we need you all to stay tuned. There will be a point when we want that grassroots response, when we want people to write letters and hit Congress, urging them to support the RPM Act. We've got some good support in Congress for this. It really only makes sense. It's just so difficult with all of the other issues, especially in a year like this, where Congress has been distracted and focused more or less on just one or two things to try and get the thing raised up just to get it through. I think there's a lot of support. I don't know that we'd run into a problem. It's just getting time on the legislative calendar to make it happen. So thanks for all your support up to this point, and be ready out there. And those are just a couple of things that we're doing to work directly for motorsports.
Yep.
All right. Here's one that's from Ben Winder from Transfer Flow. He says, how can SEMA help bridge the gap from experts in the field, that is to say small businesses, to the California Air Resources Board and the federal EPA? And he says theoretical versus practical. And I want to say that when I looked at the question, I wasn't 100% clear on what exactly Ben is asking, but I do see it as a nice opportunity to do two things: to try and answer his question, but also be able to share a little with the group about what we can do here in the SEMA garage. So one of our great member services here is a full service emissions lab. That's a testing facility. And as many of you know, in order to sell aftermarket equipment legally, that equipment that has an impact on emissions needs to be tested and certified as to its emission outcome. And we knew that this was a big hurdle for the industry for a while. It's been great for us to be able to establish this emissions test center. And more importantly than the testing equipment is the personnel that we've got here to support that. It's not just a testing program. It is an advocacy service that helps educate our members to understand what's required. It can be pretty daunting, pretty confusing. Help them understand what's required, help them work through that process of developing what they need to do to get their emissions test done. And then most importantly, once that testing is completed, being an advocate for the application to get certification as we go over to the officials at the Senate or at the California Air Resources Board. And that may be where the question that Ben is asking kind of centers, and that is, sometimes we run into these technical differences, these gaps between what it is that the SEMA company is trying to do with their product and a kind of theoretical position that the regulators have about the test and about the testing approach and so forth. So we have the great fortune here at SEMA to have a true expert in the field, Peter Tridy, leading the team. And Peter is often able to help bridge that gap when it gets to that question where our member company is saying, this is pretty practical. It makes sense that this product is not going to be an emissions problem. What's with all the theoretical gibberish here? And get that bridge or that gap kind of bridged and help them with that. So I think Peter and his team over the years have really helped a lot of companies expedite that and get through that. I would also say there are some times that we're just, it's a challenge. It's a tough thing. So we urge you guys come on in, use the services, see what our team can do to help you out.
Yeah, they definitely, the emission compliance services that SEMA offers are turnkey services. They do everything that the suppliers, manufacturers need to do in terms of filling out the paperwork, assessing what's required, developing a plan. for compliance, submitting it to government officials, performing the testing. And I think when I think about theoretical versus practical, somebody can say, well, just go to this website and read, this is how you get compliant. These guys do it for you, and they tell you what things you need to do for what kinds of products and which products don't require testing. You know, it isn't up to them, it's up to the regulators. But the key is their relationships with the federal and state regulators are unsurpassed. For aftermarket products, they enable or do the work to accomplish more CARB executive orders for emissions compliance than any other organization. And it's a great service to members, very affordable if you want to get compliant on emissions products and you sell emissions products.
You know, it's an opportunity for us to emphasize too, that approval of the SEMA board for us to go ahead and establish a new SEMA garage facility in Detroit includes an emissions lab. And that's going to bring that service and that kind of capability and the opportunity for SEMA members who are based east of the Mississippi to have much closer access.
And gives us rolling road capability for four-wheel drive vehicles, for diesel vehicles perhaps. So we'll be expanding what we can do and adding capacity. The SEMA garage runs, you know, we're running 2 shifts a day, pretty much max capacity. And, you know, we feel like that additional capacity benefit members in a bunch of different ways.
That's right.
All right, our next question is from Michael Andrade. And the question is, how does SEMA support education for the next generation and provide support for automotive trade schools? Well, SEMA has a bunch of programs that are targeting students of all ages to help bring more people into our industry that are qualified with the right skills, but also to create people that are excited about automotive, the lifestyle. So we have programs for high schools, for example, where we subsidize vehicle builds, big custom builds that they do in about 10 high schools right now. We also provide a lot of financial support to the high school program for Hot Rodders of Tomorrow. And then when we get into trade schools and colleges and universities, we provide student programs and also programs for educators and other people involved in steering students into the automotive trade. And those programs bring I think it's over 2,000 students to the combined SEMA and PRI shows. And those students are really given the ultimate introduction to our industry because those shows really open their eyes to the size and scope of our industry. We also have a scholarship program. We provide a scholarship, about $300,000 in scholarships to students that are pursuing either vocational trade, you know, an automotive vocational trade school, or a college or university program, and have an interest in the automotive aftermarket as a career path. And we've got other programs where we try to be connected to and provide resources to students, job fairs and other kinds of programs. So really a great thing that I think we could do more of, but we're certainly expanding what we're doing to help people move into automotive trade education.
Yeah, it's a big thrust area for the board of directors as well, the staff. So we're on this and recognize that's an important thing for us to be focused on there. So thanks for that, Tim. So we have a question here from Lance Stander from Superformance. It's a legislative related question. He says, can you please provide a progress update on the Low Volume Vehicle Manufacturers Act? So just a little background for folks. This is legislation that's about making a special allowance for manufacturers who put out a small volume. In this case, it's limited to about 325 vehicles per year, but a low volume of vehicles that are offered for sale. A lot of times these are replica cars. They used to be limited to kit cars, but this kind of allows that to move from being a kit car that you have to complete for it to be legal to I can actually deliver these vehicles and ready to go. So the special allowance means that those manufacturers don't have to go through the extensive programs for testing and certification, both with regard to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA requirements, or the EPA and California Air Resources Board requirements. There are still requirements there, but they're more reasonable, more achievable for these low volume manufacturers. So we've been working on this for a while. It's a great example of a proactive piece of legislation. A lot of times we find ourselves defensively responding, but this was something we went out and sought with the federal government, got it through Congress, which was a heck of an achievement. And then we needed NHTSA to promulgate regulations to give it life. And for who knows what variety of reasons, NHTSA dragged its feet, not for a little while, for about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So we unfortunately had to take that step of dropping a lawsuit to force action. Fortunately, that lawsuit got the results. NHTSA did promulgate a proposed regulation in January of this year. And now we're waiting for, after that notice and comment period that goes with the proposed regulation, we're now waiting for the final regulations to come out. And they're expected at some point in the next couple of months. So this is going to be a great opportunity for our member companies. I think we share the member companies' frustration that it's taken so long.
Yes.
It seems really contrary because this is the kind of thing that helps small businesses. And you would expect under this time in this administration that we'd be getting a push on that kind of stuff. But there's just so much red tape and so much bureaucracy, I think, in DC that it takes time. And well, it looks like we're finally going to get our results. So
right.
we were pleased with the proposed regulations. The industry members we're working with were pleased. An important thing here, it isn't just the folks who manufacture these vehicles who benefit, because the folks who manufacture those vehicles are using many of our manufacturers' parts in putting them together.
Exactly.
So it's going to have a nice spreading effect.
Yep.
So that's our update for you on that, Lance.
Yep. No doubt it's been slowed down by COVID and some of the government shutdowns, office shutdowns at those agencies, but we're really confident that that'll get done soon.
This is from Harry Hibbler. Harry Hibbler is one of our Hall of Fame members. Thanks for sending us a question, Harry. He asks, what are the plans for expanding the PRI show in the future? So this is a great question because it gives us a chance to talk about a couple of things. For those of you who participate in the PRI show, you probably noticed that we're pretty much at full capacity of the existing convention center spaces. But at the same time, we've been trying some innovative things to kind of grow that footprint. And one of the things we've done the last couple of years is begin moving into the Lucas Oil Stadium and having some success by being able to locate some things in there that are really well suited for that space. And that's opened up additional space. And we've got some other opportunities as demand continues to push. We're going to be able to create critical mass in other zones around that convention center so that we can accommodate some expansion. But it's been great to see what has happened with the PRI show in Indy. We made the decision to bring it back there because of the importance of so much industry activity centered there. And it's, I think, really worked out well. The industry has a great resource in the PRI show, and now bringing this new office and effort to PRI and helping that segment of the industry and co-locating it there in Indianapolis is going to be really strong.
Yep.
So lots to look forward there Harry. So thanks for that question. Let's see. I've got a question here from Brent Fenimore. He's with JMS Performance Group. And he was looking for an update on some of our garage services. His question goes like this: what new vehicles will be available for testing at the SEMA garage? We need to get some imports available so we can stay on track. This is kind of interesting. It's, again, a question that I'm not 100% sure what's being asked, but it does give us the chance to cover both branches of the question that I'm thinking about there. On the one hand, we could be talking about emissions testing, and we covered that. I want to say that maybe some members are aware, maybe some aren't. when we have a common vehicle platform, one that we know the industry is going to be interested in, SEMA takes the step to acquire those vehicles and conduct testing on those vehicles in advance. Baseline testing is what we would call it for the industry. And then folks can bring in product and test it themselves. At the same time, our member companies are free to bring any vehicle in that we can accommodate. As you mentioned, right now, we can't do four-wheel drive. But so really, there's no limitation when you're talking about emissions testing as to what we bring in. If the question is about could we get some vehicles in, particularly imports, for that purpose, Brent, I'd encourage you and others who are interested in certain vehicles being here, let us know about it. Contact our team here, contact Peter Tridy and let him know. And we'll work on that because we do have this fleet of vehicles that are common that we keep around for a while because we know it's not always easy for our members to get them. And sometimes we can get them pre-production, sometimes we can get them really early after release. So that's going on. The other branch of the question could be talking more about vehicles that we bring to the garage for measuring sessions, for scanning in order to create data files that folks can then do their engineering off of. In that case, SEMA, in many instances, we have great relationships with the vehicle manufacturers. They allow us access to those vehicles, again, sometimes pre-production, sometimes right at release. And our measuring sessions used to be here in the garage, and previous to that, it wasn't as technical an affair as it is today. Now we have the capability, we have staff trained in using scanners. We're scanning those vehicles. Our members are bringing in scanning tools. We make accommodation for folks to be able to do that. And we're then generating from those the kind of files that people are able to use in product development. So we've also got a great product library of both OEM provided scan data and our own data. Basically, the OEMs are blueprints. Coming back to the question about the import vehicles, if there are vehicles you'd be interested in having us consider, if they are common platforms that a lot of members would use that data, we'd be glad to bring it in here and get that kind of thing going. So good stuff. Thanks for that question there, Brent. So I think we're probably bumping up against the end of our hour, Tim, which is kind of amazing. Time goes so quickly when we're doing these things. But I want to thank the folks who took the time out here to attend this annual meeting. It's really a great briefing opportunity. We're using this new format thanks to those of you who kind of expected, hey, I'll give that new thing a try, who knows what we'll get, but we hope it's been fulfilling for you. It's certainly been a new experience for us, and while it kind of cuts down on that great interaction that we get at the town halls and so forth, it really did give us a chance to gather and address some questions that we know people have out there and share some updates, information about what SEMA has available to help you all, even in ordinary times, in COVID times, whatever. We hope you'll take advantage of the resources that we've provided as you navigate your business through this really unpredictable, challenging time. So Tim, that about wraps up the 2020 General Membership Meeting. Would you do us the honor and adjourn our meeting for us?
Yep. Well, thank you all. It's been a great opportunity to talk to you, and thank you to those that submitted questions. And I would tell you, we didn't have time to address all the questions, but we will be reading all of the questions that we received, and staff will reach out to you individually if you ask a specific question. And I'd also suggest you can use that question submittal process to give us feedback. If you have any feedback on the event, please feel free to do it. We'll read everything that we receive. And with that, our annual meeting, member meeting is adjourned, and thanks everyone for participating.
Thanks, folks.